And I worked in care, and I was a senior manager in care, and some workers, you think, the worst problems I had was with workers, not with the staff. I had one worker who, when like legislations and things would change, she would say, "Well, I'm just not doing that. I don't agree with it." And you go, "It's the law." Well, I don't care. I'm not doing it. So I know what it's up against. I also know how difficult a job it is, how utterly challenging a job it is, and it is possibly one of the very few jobs where you're not allowed to really be yourself, because other jobs, regardless of what's happened in your life, you've got to go in, you've got to be nice. I used to say to when my sisters were alive, my sisters would say, "Well, it's kind of easy, you just kind of talk to people, don't you? I said, "Look, see, you go to your job," and one of them worked in a cash office. I said, "You could go to your job with a hangover. You could go to your job, you could fall out with your husband and go in a foul mood and stuff." I says, anything could be happening to my life, and I've got to go. So I know how difficult care work can be, how really difficult care work can be. But there are lots of people who are there who are ingrained in a system. And the system still. The first thing you have to do when you training is health and safety, right, which usually includes things like how to revive somebody who's choked to death and all that sort of stuff. See, when I joined care work, the very, very first course I was sent on was pin down. Do you know what pin down is? How to wrestle someone to the floor and sit on them. That was deemed the most important thing. The most important thing that I learned. And there are still people in care who are taught that, and still people who it's called different now. They don't call it pin down anymore, it's called something else now, but it's still there, still in your training. And of course there's some people desperate to use that. So you've been there for 30 years or 20 years or whatever, or you've just started and you've just come from where, I don't know, let's totally be xenophobic here, say you've just come from the Philippines, where you've been brought up in a very religious background and a very you're a lovely person, but you think God is beautiful, and on your first day there you're presented with this queer man whose husband sometimes comes and visits them, and they have to they're in the room together with the door shut, and you're supposed to be whatever, So it's difficult. I know it's difficult from all sides, but it shouldn't be difficult. It shouldn't be us to sort it out. So often it is the queer person, like with any minority group, and to call us that, it is the minority group who is forced to do the education. And that shouldn't be the case. Why should we have to educate you when what we're dealing with is your prejudices and your problems?